You open your eyes, and lucky you. You've just been born in the Shire, a 20,000 square mile region towards the center of Middle-earth. You're born to your hobbit mother and your hobbit father in a hobbit hole, an underground home with circular doors, polished brass knobs, and pantries so big you could get lost in them during your second breakfast. And you will, frequently. You survive birth, which means you're one of the luckier ones. A lot of hobbits aren't so fortunate. You see, your village doesn't have any doctors or medicine, so if something goes wrong or someone gets sick, it's basically like living in a medieval town. You don't have access to any of that fancy elvish medicine or Dunedain healing knowledge. You're just raw dogging Middle-earth. Let's just hope you don't catch a cold. But for now, you're alive. And that life of yours is gonna move very slowly. See, hobbits don't come of age until they're 33 years old. That means that in the Shire, you're legally a child for an entire 3 decades. Now that you're 5 years old, your early years will be spent eating, playing outside, and learning practical things like how to garden, how to brew ale, and how to sneak pies off windowsills without getting caught. It sounds kind of fun, right? Well, it is, until you realize that nothing ever changes. Your entire village is made up of people who have lived in the same houses, eaten the same food, and talked about the same gossip for generations. Your neighbors will spend 2 full weeks gossiping about someone wearing a yellow hat instead of brown. You once saw someone try to petition the mayor to outlaw unusually loud whistling. Adventure? Forbidden. Ambition? Weird. Changes? Absolutely not. Hobbits don't change. Because here's the thing, as a hobbit, you're basically born into a retirement home. The Shire is what happens when you take a world full of dragons, dark lords, ancient magic, and epic quests, and opt out. Your ancestors were isolated here in the Shire from the outside world for over 1,000 years. In a lot of cases, your kind isn't even known to the outside world. But say what you will about hobbits, these guys sure know how to throw a party. A massive part of your culture is going all out on parties whenever something happens. Birthdays, people moving houses, you name it. Any excuse to throw up the big tents, colourful lanterns, and line the tables with food. Basically every hobbit from the area is invited, and your 18th birthday is no different. The whole Shire comes together for your birthday party that you celebrate at the same place every other birthday is celebrated. Under the party tree. There's food everywhere. We're talking multiple courses, towering pies, roasted meats, endless ale, baked goods, and dessert tables that could crush a man. People literally plan their eating strategy ahead of time, pacing themselves to survive second helpings. Birthdays are a little different here, because instead of receiving gifts, the birthday hobbit is the one giving the gifts to everyone else. These gifts, called mathams, are small, sometimes useless gifts that are basically just little trinkets or knickknacks, like cool rocks you collected or homemade jams. But hey, it's the thought that counts. Some mathams just get re-gifted endlessly from party to party, as if they're cursed objects being passed from one person to another. These parties have music with flutes, fiddles, and drums, as well as dancing and tons of singing. The songs are usually songs about food, drinking, or ancient tales about heroism, where someone immediately goes home afterwards to eat. If a really rich hobbit is throwing the party, they might even hire fireworks. Parties are also where hobbits gossip, brag, and size each other up. Who's courting who? Who's bought new land? Who's getting a little too close to that Took girl? They also never end on time. A proper hobbit party will keep going until the food or the ale runs out. Sometimes for days if the supplies are big enough. People sleep on the grass, pass out in chairs, or just keep eating until they physically can't anymore. You may be 18 years old now, but you're still absolutely a child. If you're a human, you'd be fully grown by now. But as a hobbit, you're still not quite there yet. A fully grown hobbit will grow somewhere between 2 and 4 feet tall, with the average height being 3'6". As a short king, this doesn't really affect your life too much, because the tallest house in your village is only 6 feet tall. And speaking of feet, look at the size of yours. Hobbits are born with proportionally massive feet that are much more durable than humans. So as a result, no one really wears shoes. As a hobbit, you don't quite have a national sport, but if you did, it'd be eating. It's basically a biological requirement for you to get 6 meals a day. Breakfast, second breakfast, 11's, luncheon, afternoon tea, and dinner. Miss one of them and you won't be able to function. And if you miss 2, it'll almost feel like you're dying. But really, you'll probably be fine, because that's life in the Shire. No danger, no real excitement. It's simple, peaceful, and completely predictable. In a world full of dragons, orcs, dark forces, and magic, you're in the kind of place where the most dangerous thing that's ever happened is a goat eating someone's gardening hat. But the real kicker? Hobbits hate adventure. It's practically written in your DNA. Say the word dragon and everyone clutches their teacups like you just set fire to the party tree. Unless it's in a cool song, of course. You're taught from childhood that adventures are nasty, uncomfortable things that make you late for dinner. And worse, they require change. Because of your collective disdain for change, your traditions haven't changed in generations. Your parents farmed, and their parents were mildly alarmed when someone suggested putting wheels on carts. You try to talk about the outside world, and someone starts telling the story of old Took again. The hobbit who saw an elf once and never recovered. That's their idea of a brush with death. There's no war here, sure, but there's no choice either. You're expected to marry young, settle down, have exactly 3.4 children, and talk about vegetables for the next 70 years. And if you don't, if you're not interested in that life, the whole town starts watching you like you've grown a second head. Or worse, like you're becoming a Took. What is a Took, you ask? Well, the Tooks are a family of hobbits with a very un-hobbit-like sense of curiosity. They're far more ambitious and adventurous than other hobbits, but because of that, no one really likes them. They're seen as quite weird for their unusual behavior, but the rest of the hobbits put up with them because of their sheer numbers and wealth. Not that it matters anyway, most of them end up as monster food. Now let's talk about travel. Oh wait, you don't. Hobbits don't go anywhere. Most of your kind has never even seen a mountain, and you are no different. A river counts as exotic. The idea of crossing the border into Bree is considered rebellious, and if you try, you'll have to deal with the Bounders. The volunteer Hobbit patrol force made entirely of nosy busybodies with nothing better to do than stop unusual activity. While other species across the realm have access to incredible knowledge, your books here are all about farming, or food, or both. No magic, no heroics, nothing that might suggest the world is bigger than what you can see from your hilltop. And forget about school. Hobbit education consists mostly of learning to count potatoes and tell mushrooms apart. Finally, the big day arrives. Your 33rd birthday. The day you're officially an adult and join grown-up Hobbit society. It's a huge milestone. And in true Hobbit fashion, you celebrate it by throwing a massive party. Not just a few friends over for cake. No, you're expected to throw the party of the year. Tents, fireworks, food tables that stretch for miles, and barrels of ale so big you could swim in them. Meanwhile, the real adults, the ones who've been adults for 50 years already, size you up and start asking the important questions. When are you settling down? Have you bought a farm yet? Any nice Hobbit lasses on the horizon? You're barely out of childhood yet, and you're expected to lock yourself into the same sleepy path as everyone else. Happy birthday, kid. Hope you like routine, cause the rest of your life doesn't get any more special. You take all this for granted. Wait, what was that? You young hobbits have no idea what it was like, says the older hobbit. You've never met him before. He's from a distant village in the Shire, but he speaks to you like a disapproving grandfather. This place was built on bones. Do you have any idea what it was like to be my father? No. Well, let's take it back 250 years earlier. You open your eyes years before the Green Dragon even pours its first pint. Before old Took's records, and most importantly, before peace. It's the long winter, and your mother and father argue about how they're gonna survive with a quote-unquote winter baby. It's one of the harshest winters ever in Middle-earth. Snow has piled up for months, the rivers are frozen, and the crops have died. Wolves howl in the distance, and snow slips through the cracks in your parents' dirty, beat-up roof. In the old days, your chances of survival are slim. No red door for you, no cozy round window. Your family lives in a messy hole dug into the side of a hill that's half mud and half rock, and it leaks when it rains. It sweats when it's warm. It collapses twice before you even turn 10. Your father curses and rebuilds it with bruised fingers and rotting wood. He doesn't sing songs the hobbits in the future will. He grunts. He sharpens sticks. He makes traps. It's been months and your village is running out of food. If you want to survive, you're gonna have to eat squirrels. Raw. A few months later, your parents give birth to your younger sister, but she doesn't make it. This is the time before the Shire. No king yet to give you land. No Westmarch, no peace. Most folks are scattered. Some in the north fathering, some in secret camps far out east. But none of it is safe. Orcs roam, wargs howl, and the black land looms. You don't really understand what Sauron is yet. But still to you, he's the reason the grown-ups look over their shoulders when they light a fire. The reason everyone sleeps with a knife nearby. The shadow you're not supposed to name, but they do anyway when they think you're asleep. One night at 10 years old, you wake up and your hole is empty. Your parents are gone. There's blood on the floor and footprints in the mud, going east. You wait for 3 days, eating what crumbs you can find to survive on. But they never come back, so you walk. You follow the river and eat whatever doesn't kill you. You learn to keep quiet, to blend in. Not in the jolly hobbit sense. No, you keep quiet because sounds get you killed. That's the first lesson you learn. This is why you lived in a hole, because being small doesn't make you invisible. It just makes you prey. At 22 years old, you're now a hobbit teenager. You've been living with a band of other young hobbits for a while. Survivors and thieves with a similar story to your own, who call themselves the Lanterns because they steal lights from traveling dwarves and use them to keep warm. For shelter, you carve out a den beneath the roots of an old willow, and there you sleep in shifts. One of your closest friends, Arlo, takes guard that night, and you sleep easy because you trust him. Things might not be so bad after all. But then you wake up, and Arlo doesn't come back. Well, spoke too soon. You find his knife the next day, red, twisted, and stuck in a tree. The rest of you move farther south, towards a place you've only heard of in stories. Whispers of a land being carved out for your kind. A gift from the king. A land that's peaceful and green. They call it the Shire. Huh, what a weird name. Peaceful, they say. You don't believe it. After losing half of your fellow Lanterns along the way, you finally complete your journey and make it to the Shire just before your 33rd birthday. You're coming of age, if you believe in such celebrations. But there's no party, no gifts. Just a tired walk past the Brandywine, a muttered thanks to the farmer who shares potatoes, and a lot of wondering whether all that walking was worth it. Because it's not quite the Shire that people will come to know in the future. It's younger. Not yet filled with all the tall hedges and polished round doors, but the beginnings are there. Families trying to farm again, burrows being dug properly for the first time, with stone frames and real chimneys. You dig too, ditches mostly, because no one trusts a drifter. But if you keep your head down, you can potentially live to see 100, and maybe 200 if you're lucky. Since you have time, you patiently wait and save, and after a long few years, you get your own plot of land. For a while, it's good, but then you feel it. Him. The eye. You feel it first in the way old folks start muttering about the Battle of Greenfields. About how, nearly 500 years ago, an orc named Golfenbull tries to conquer this place. Old hobbits say a took named Bandabra, a hobbit twice your size, once rode a horse and swung a club so hard it sent Golfenbull's head sailing. But you don't believe it because you just don't have that kind of strength. None of your neighbours do. Then come the White Wolves. The year is TA 2912, and the snow never ends. Wolves prowl past fences and howl through the night. Crops fail, bellies empty, children vanish. You survive only because you know what it's like to starve. You knew how to trap, how to stretch bread, how to keep warm under the bark and moss. Your parents weren't with you for long, but when it really comes down to it, they taught you everything you need to know. Others weren't so lucky. You know what it costs to get here. And part of you still wakes up in the night wondering if the wolves will come again. Wondering if Sauron's eye still watches somewhere. The young ones laugh at your stories. They say you're being dramatic. That the Shire has always been peaceful, but you know the truth. The parties, the food, and the boring gossip. That is a life that was earned.